I will be conducting the hearing for the board. The date is November 28, 2022, and the hearing will begin at 2:08. Board members present are Mr. Ronnie Morris and Ms. Belinda Davis. Also present is Dr. Brumley from the department. Public comments received today and noted in the record will be limited to the proposed rules contained in the notice of intent regarding revisions to Bulletin 136, the Louisiana Standards for Early Child Care and Education Programs serving birth through 5 years, as published on pages 2614 through 2629 of the October 20th, 2022 issue of the Louisiana Register. All individuals wishing to provide oral or written comments regarding the proposed rule must sign in on one of the sign-in sheets available. Individuals signed in to provide public comments and wishing to provide oral testimony will be allowed up to 3 minutes to provide comments. Designated individuals from groups and organizations will be allowed up to 5 minutes to provide comments. Individuals testifying today may also submit lengthier written comments. Individuals present today but not wishing to speak may submit written comments. However, written comments prepared by persons not in attendance at the hearing may not be submitted by a third party and will not be entered into the public hearing record. Please also note that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. A summary report will be presented to Bessie at its December 2022 meeting and will include all oral and written comments which have been submitted appropriately. Please also note that transferring time to another individual will not be permitted. When time is yielded, the time is yielded to the floor, but time will not be added to another person's time. Individuals will be called in groups. When your name is called, please come to the front of the room and take a seat at the table. Then I will call the group to be seated right behind the table. Once individuals in the first group have provided testimony, you may move from the front row and take a seat at the table. Please be sure to state your name and the organization you represent for the record before making comments. Time will be kept when your testimony begins. And lastly, this is not a time for question and answers, but merely an opportunity to provide oral comments. We'll get started. Beryl Amade, Ashley Lucas, Frankie Robertson, and Tim Pastuzzi at the table. Rear Admiral John Kern seated behind, Derek Toops, Randy Powell, and Vicki Krutzer.
Since the August Bessie meeting, where I came and I shared some preliminary concerns about the then proposed early childhood education curriculum standards, I've taken the opportunity to study them further. At that meeting, I shared that I consider these standards rather generic and boring when compared to the ones that they're replacing, and unfriendly to the concept of family. I believe I also labeled them as a step in the wrong direction. After further review, I want to reaffirm my preliminary findings and state that I now have even greater concerns. The new content standards are so broadly written that they actually leave the door wide open for social emotional learning concepts known as SEL. SEL sounds generally pleasant on the surface. Who wouldn't want children to be socially well adjusted and have healthy relationships after all? But that's neither the goal nor the result of SEL. SEL changes the primary focus of what will be required of staff in ways that further alienate families, diminish academics, and align our standards with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which are political and un-American. While I understand how all of our curriculum standards are reviewed routinely, and updated after several years. I do not understand the necessity for such a drastic revision that these new standards provide. Some of the best and most important aspects of the outgoing early learning and development standards have been replaced or completely deleted. For example, this statement from the guiding principles in the former standards, it says, families are the primary caregivers and educators of their young children. Families should be aware of programmatic goals and experiences that should be provided for children and expectations for children's performance by the end of the preschool years. Professionals and families should work collaboratively to ensure that children are provided optimal learning experiences. Programs must provide families with the information they may need to support children's learning and development. This statement was repealed outright and not replaced. The former standards express the need to include family in a variety of ways, particularly in the section on cognitive development and general knowledge, strategies for social studies. And they include Appendix C, the importance of engaging families. In contrast, the new standards make no mention of engaging families, and when there is mention of family at all, it's in the context of having children describe the elements of or communicate information about their families. Sounds a little creepy to me. This is unacceptable unless the goal is to further expand the gulf between parents and public education establishment. Another point I mentioned back in August was the lack of any reference to money as a learning tool in the new standards. Why is there no expectation that we will teach very young children about money? Will this delay their ability to understand fractions later? Why are we leaving out concepts of buying and selling? Does this indicate some underlying political opposition to capitalism on the part of the drafters? Lastly, the former glossary or definition of terms, which was good, was repealed in the new standards and apparently not replaced. I'm disappointed that the new standards are so bland that a glossary of terms was not even deemed necessary. In closing, I recommend doing away with the new standards and going back to the ELDS unless and until they can be replaced by standards that are truly an improvement. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, thank you. I'm Ashley Lucas. I'm a pediatrician for over 20 years. I'm representing the Louisiana Academy of American Academy of Pediatrics. I'm medical director for all of Lake Children's Health. I've been involved in the child care industry as a parent and as a child care health consultant and advisor, a member of the Early Childhood Advisory Council, and a board member of the Child Care Association of Louisiana. It's just kind of a passion of mine. I am here mainly to state that I've had the opportunity to read the standards and a couple of different iterations of them over the last year, and I will publicly endorse them. I think we have a good document here, and we don't see any need to delay further their adoption. I have heard some of the controversy from the public about social emotional learning being something that shouldn't be taught in child care settings, that it's families' purview to accomplish that at home. But I think people may not understand that you cannot take social emotional development and remove it from the general context of child development. It's just as important a domain as gross motor development, speech communication, that domain. In fact, social emotional competence and learning is possibly the most important aspect of social development in early childhood, and one that is critical for that child's success in school and their relationships later and their careers. And it may be the most mysterious of the domains. Everyone understands that a child should walk at a certain time, talk at a certain time. People don't understand what social emotional development is, and it goes more sort of executive functioning, empathy, controlling one's emotions, learning to delay gratification, having sympathy for another child, having boundaries. These are things that in today's world, especially in our competitive work environments, being able to work with others and get along is so important. And so child care providers, as parents and anyone taking care of a child, need to be able to recognize when things aren't going well with that child's development. And of course, as with any aspect of development, the sooner we see a problem and recognize it and address it, the better. I think the standards have to be somewhat guidance. They're not telling anyone how to teach this any more than you would tell them, how to teach a child to walk. It's more about recognizing that they should be walking and understanding activities that you would foster that. When you're helping a child's speech development along, you're not telling them what to say, you're just fostering speech by interacting and speaking. There's ways to do these things. So the standards, they can't be too specific because every child's life is different and the context is different from one household to another. And so we're not trying to tell child care providers how to develop a curriculum or teach social emotional learning. It's more about giving them the framework and the guidance to recognize what should be happening and when it's not happening, how to recognize that and then cooperate with the family to get the child the assistance they need. So I think the committee did a wonderful job. We worked very hard for a long time to bring these standards up to where they need to be and to align them with kindergarten standards and so on. And so I fully endorse them. I'm happy to answer your questions at the time.
I'm going to begin reading the support or opposition checkbox as the speakers come up, so that those watching will know what the speaker is expressing. Mr. Robertson, Mr. Tom, Admiral John Kern. Come to the that you're not present. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Ms. Robertson. And Ms. Robertson supports the recommendation and wishes to speak.
Thank you. Hi, good morning. My name is Frankie Robertson. I'm a resident of Baton Rouge, and I am here in support of early learning and development standards, early care and education providers. I'm very happy to be here to support the work of the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children and various stakeholders that are here today. I think it's probably been made clear at this point that all of us want the same thing for our children. We want our children to be responsible, respectful, self-reliant, make good decisions, set goals, understand how to solve problems, gain self-confidence, and take responsibility for one's actions. And it's important that children must be taught these skills, and they must be reinforced at home and in school. Children have one start to get it right, and some of life's most important lessons happen before the age of 5. That's why Louisiana was one of the first states in the country to put early childhood and childhood education standards in place way back in 2013 to give our children the life skills they need to be more responsible and successful as they grow up. We know that all children who receive this kind of learning early in life do better in school. And for well over 10 years, our state has used these standards to give our children a better start in life. And we must keep these standards and continue to update them with the latest data and research. Our children's future depends on it. I speak today as a parent of 2, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. So as a parent, I'm raising children in Louisiana who are school age. It's very important that we keep these standards in place, and I want to thank you for your time today.
Mr. Tom? Here. John Kern? Oh,
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Rear Admiral Jacob Korn, United States Coast Guard, retired. I served for 36 years on active duty. My last position was the 7th Coast Guard District Commander, responsible for 8,000 personnel and all Coast Guard activities in the southeastern United States and the Caribbean Basin, down in South and Central America. I was also the Chief of Staff, Second in Command of the 8th Coast Guard District in New Orleans. I'm also a member of Mission Readiness, an organization of more than 750 flag and general officers working in a bipartisan manner to strengthen national security through evidence-based policy solutions. Currently, our military services are having difficulty meeting recruiting goals, in large part because only 23% of our nation's youth can qualify for military service. As a Civil Service Commissioner for the City of New Orleans, I also see firsthand the difficulty we are having in recruiting and retaining New Orleans police officers. In Louisiana, 51% of our children don't exercise regularly, 35% are overweight, Teaching healthy behaviors must begin in early childhood to prevent emotional, educational, and health issues, and is paramount for our overall national security and health. We must have adults who are prepared to problem solve, regulate their own behavior, and be good citizens. Members of Mission Readiness believe that investment in early childhood development is critical in helping children establish and develop life skills to ensure their future success and prevent many chronic societal problems that we now face. I came here today to offer my support for approval of the revisions to Louisiana Early Learning and Development Standards published as a notice of intent in the October 2022 Louisiana Register, and urge the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education to move forward with implementing the revised standards. These standards are the result of a transparent, year-long process. They were developed by a diverse and talented committee of early educational practitioners, researchers, and parents. The proposed revisions maintain the same 5 domains of development for young children: approaches to learning, cognitive development and general knowledge, language and literacy development, physical well-being, and social and emotional development. The domains are designed to be interdependent and include all areas of children's learning and development. I've read through the entire document. It is well constructed, comprehensive, and balanced among all the domains. The document recognizes that families are the primary caregivers and educators of their children. There's nothing, not one thing, in the nearly 100-page document that should be considered the least bit controversial. It is imperative we take this opportunity to approve and institute the revised Louisiana standards for early childhood care and educational programs. These standards will positively affect the development of our children and allow them to serve in any public or private capacity of their choice. Approval of these standards will play an active role in improving our state's economy and reputation in the future and have a positive effect on our national security. It is truly an investment in the future of Louisiana. Thank you all for your time, for listening to my testimony today. A written copy will be provided to you.
Shane, I have a question, okay?
Sure.
Adam, is there one contributing factor to your comment that only 23% of applicants qualify?
I'm sorry, Mr. Morris, we don't do questions, and we can't do questions and answers.
I'd like to reach out to you after.
Sure.
You can get out of that question.
Sure.
And Rear Admiral Horn supports the recommendation.
Ms. Brady Pugh from Shreveport, Louisiana. Thank you all for being here today. I'm just up here to say the public is seeking for the early childhood development standards to be in a portal for additional public comment, same as how you did for the social studies standards. There are concerns around these standards that we would like the state education department to address with the input of stakeholders, such as the general public. We would like to encourage you to allow public comment on these standards. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tom?
Stand up.
Sir.
I know you'll have trouble with that.
Yes, I am.
Just think of George Seinfeld, and you'll get to stand. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
think I'm having trouble reading.
My name is Tom.
Shane,
Yes.
we may not have lots of answers, but I think there would be some value in making sure everybody that's in the room, because since they have so much interest in this and take time to come today, that they do have a background on the process that's been implemented to date. So for example, either yourself or Superintendent Brumley could share with this audience, the fact that there has been a portal that's already been open, had been public meetings already, and so forth. So for the benefit of the people in the room and the people that are interested and watching live, could either of you provide that background, or maybe somebody from your department, Superintendent Brumley?
Yeah, Jenna, would you like, or unless Dr. Brown would like to do it? Jenna, would you just provide the historic development of the standards?
Good afternoon, Jenna Stassel, Department of Education. So these standards have been in process for quite some time. Bessie did approve us opening a standards review process. There is not a policy for early learning and development standards that dictates how often they should be reviewed, but it had been quite some time. It had been over the 7-year period that we followed for the core content areas for K-12 standards. And so a review process was open. We opened applications for the committee that would work on the development of the standards. We ran through that application process, selected a committee. The committee worked over quite a few months. I do believe it was over a year of process that the committee worked on the standards, developed the standards, and then this past August, Bessie, these standards came before the board, and the board did approve those standards. A part of the process was opening a public comment portal, and that was open during the month of May of this year. And so it was open for the period of a month. We did receive only a few comments, but we did evaluate those comments and take into consideration. These standards also went in front of the Early Childhood Council, the Early Childhood Advisory Council, and I believe we did not have a quorum at that meeting for the Early Childhood Advisory Council. We did for the second one. The first Early Childhood Advisory Council that we took them to, we did not have a quorum to endorse the standards, but the second time around at the July meeting, we did have a quorum, so that council was able to endorse the standards before they came to the August Bessie meeting. So public portal was already a part of the process during the development of the standards.
So individuals could provide comments at both of those meetings, even though it was not endorsed at the first meeting. And it was also presented to the Superintendent's Advisory Council, which was endorsed at that time as well. Okay, and Mr. Costanza supports and wishes to speak.
Good afternoon, my name is Tom Costanza. I'm Executive Director with the Citizens for Educational Choice in Louisiana. We represent non-public schools. It's composed of parent-teacher organizations and schools across the state. We work mainly at the legislature to look at anything that will impact non-public schools. In general, the background of my remarks is that we do have learning centers. And my consultation has been with some board members and some teachers, especially first grade teachers, how important these standards are. I read all of them, but I can't tell you I'm an expert in them, but talking with the teachers, and they look fairly strong. What I will say, though, in our strategic planning for the non-public schools, which would be elementary and high school, we identified social and emotional learning as really strategic for our students. So in that way, although we are mainly with elementary and high school, we know the importance of this. I know that's not the only domain that's included, but it's extremely important, especially as we all know with technology today about how kids are just so much on their cell phones and not interacting. I think this takes a really important focus. I will say that parental choice is fundamental for us. Parents are primary educators, and it is important to listen to parents as this process has in the past and is doing now. And so we do support the revisions, and we thank all those who have worked on them. Thank you.
Mr. Pratzer, Mr. Toots. Also, Ms. Connie. Janice Butler, Lindsay McNair, Danielle Fondo. Yes, ma'am.
Good
I'm
afternoon.
sorry, Mr. President opposes the recommendation and wishes to speak.
Thank you very much. I'm Vicki Pratzer, former school board member, now a grandparent of a 4- and 5-year-old, and very interested in fall from Monroe City Schools. I have followed all of this. I am a K through 12 music teacher, so truly understand working with students and the ability that you have as a teacher to engage with social and emotional learning just through your subject matter and interaction with your children. I'm very concerned that we are pushing an agenda here that is not healthy for our students. I'm concerned that we're putting so much on our teachers right now. They have professional development in service out the wazoo. You know, you put between literacy with all of your other programs, and now we're pushing this. I do agree that in the past, having your guidelines to go in, they're needed. But I am really afraid that where we're going is not going to get us the results that you're looking for. So therefore, I ask you to really consider this, and I ask Bessie, go back, look. We need parental engagement, yes. But my last question is, and I know you won't answer, but how will you decide, or how will you see that it is implemented? That is one of the biggest things, and if I have a complaint of the State Department of Education, you have many programs from literacy to all the way, and there's not accountability. And I can speak personally from Monroe City Schools. You got a literacy program. My district left $537,000 on the table, and yet they get more money. Nobody looked, and I think it's happening in early childhood. It's going all the way through junior high. Lastly, you have counselors, and in many schools you have counselors in the elementary schools, and they need to be the ones that go and help with those teachers with that social and emotional learning. Thank you very much.
Derek supports recommendations and wishes to speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Derek Toops, and as a member of the Early Learning and Development Standards Review Committee, I'm speaking in favor, in robust favor, of the revised standards in Bulletin 136. The fact that a handful of legislators have joined us here today, including Representative Amity from my hometown of Houma, is a reminder that the revisions to the standards represent an important policy decision that will improve the lives of Louisiana's youngest children. It is truly a gift to once again be here to share with this room the ways that they benefit not only our state's youngest children, but also their teachers, their families, and our society as a whole. Let me share a brief history of the standards, as Dr. Chasson just did, as a reminder. In April, the review committee endorsed the standards after a year-long review process. LDOE then opened the first public comment portal for 1 month to give stakeholders, including families, the opportunity to share feedback. LDOE then made revisions to the standards based on this feedback from the public. In May, the Superintendent's Advisory Council endorsed the standards. In July, the Early Childhood Advisory Council endorsed the standards. In August, Bessie approved, as notice of intent, the revised standards to be included in Bulletin 136, and there was an additional 30-day public comment period. At the August Bessie meeting, and as we are hearing today, there is some concern being raised about the standards, and I would like to provide further information on 3 of these in particular. Number 1, some stakeholders have expressed concern that there was a lack of feedback from the public on the standards. As I just highlighted, there were 2 rounds of public feedback, and it is clear that there has been overwhelming support for these standards from multiple public entities on multiple occasions, and that the process has allowed for and incorporated feedback from the public. The standards have received overwhelming support, particularly from early learning experts and educators who are the stakeholders who will be using these standards on a regular basis. Number 2, some stakeholders have expressed concern that the standards were too vague, and Representative Amity, I'm not picking on you, that they were boring, or that they did not provide specific examples of activities. The revised standards are not meant to be a detailed curriculum or a lesson plan. Rather, they are standards, a tool that supports early childhood educators with a set of developmentally appropriate expectations for what children typically know and are able to do in their first 5 years of life. The standards are a roadmap to be used by teachers to better track and guide the development of the children in their care. Number 3, some stakeholders have expressed concern that social and emotional development is not appropriate for young children, or that it is a Trojan horse for potentially divisive concepts. This is not true. I think at the heart of these concerns is a misunderstanding of what social and emotional development is. What social and emotional development is not is a nefarious vehicle for harming children or teaching them to dislike certain groups of people or their peers. What social and emotional development is one of 4 core developmental domains of the early years of life, backed by decades of research that promotes the healthy development and academic achievement of children and how they acquire skills such as self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, decision-making. Social and emotional development is recognized as a key component of a child's healthy development by the American Academy of Pediatrics, the National Association for the Education of Young Children, and by every textbook I have used in my studies at Notre Dame, UCLA, and Harvard, as well as in my college teaching career. I think we can all agree that we want to promote skills that make our children more effective communicators and contributors to society. Social and emotional development provides a framework for this and helps reduce problem behaviors and the emotional stressors that can interfere with learning. Social and emotional development helps students succeed not only academically, but in life. The 4 key domains of child development: physical, cognitive, linguistic, and social and emotional, support and are supported by the others. Removing or weakening social and emotional development in these standards would be akin to removing a leg from your dining room table. And Louisiana's children deserve to be nourished at the table, not from the floor. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Connie Campanaro. I am from Monroe, Louisiana. I am in the healthcare field and I've worked in such for 20 years. And what I think is of concern here is that so many people are confused. They're confused on social and emotional learning, social and emotional development, exactly what are the standards leaning towards, because they are more vague. And I'm not saying that's wrong or right, but I do think, because the lady from the education department did admit there was very few comments, I believe the public was unaware that the portal was open. And what would it hurt to open the portal and allow the parents, public stakeholders comment so that we can get some type of control over the confusion and clear up some of the issues with the standards? I appreciate your time and I appreciate you guys coming here today.
Ms. Secretary was providing information and permission to speak. And this is the opportunity to provide comment, written or oral. This is an additional opportunity. And this will be presented to the board in December, which will be another opportunity, this whole report. Just want to clarify. So this is the time to make your specific comments. Okay, next, Ms. Butler, Ms. Vickner, Ms. Fonda. DeJuan Jackson, Lisa Brochard, Cindy Bishop, Charmaine, Sophia.
Good afternoon. My name is Charmaine Cassiope. I serve as the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for United Way of Southeast Louisiana. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comment today. United Way of Southeast Louisiana supports the revisions to the Early Learning and Development Standards published as Notice of Intent in October 22 Louisiana Register. Ensuring early care and education instruction in Louisiana is of the highest quality. That's very important to our United Way, our board, our funded partner agencies, because early care and education, we believe, builds the foundation for a child's future success in school and in life. As you know, the proposed revised standards are the result of a year-long review process by a committee of the experts, subject matter experts, including early care and education practitioners, researchers, and parents. Our state's early care and education accountability system is ranked 8th in the nation, and these revised standards will ensure that our youngest learners continue to receive the highest quality instruction. Extensive research shows how social emotional development, improves academic performance, relationships, and above all, behavior. The approved updates to the early learning development standards are in line with existing standards. We want all Louisiana children to thrive. The revised standards will ensure that publicly funded child care programs continue to follow research-based best practices and help prepare our earliest learners for a lifetime of success. As I'm sure you know, United Way of Southeast Louisiana has been a leader. We have been a large funder of early care and education providers and programs. We would appreciate your support, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity today.
Ms. Cassiopo was in support and wishes to speak. Yes, right. Ms. Bishop is in support and wishes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Cindy Bishop, and I'm representing the Child Care Association of Louisiana. The Child Care Association of Louisiana is in favor of the revised early learning and development standards. Social and emotional learning is the most important aspect of what we do daily in an early learning center. Singing songs and having interactions with children are important. Having their pictures and names posted around the wall is part of social emotional learning. Social emotional learning is providing a lot of positive affirmations and praise to the children in our care. Social and emotional learning is talking to a child about their feelings and their emotions. Social and emotional learning has an impact on developing a child's self-confidence, empathy, and ability to develop meaningful friendships and partnerships. We all see the ill effects of what happens when children are not properly nurtured from an early age. If a child does not feel safe and loved, our youngest learners are not going to get the nurturing needed to develop healthy brains. In an early learning center, they have circle time. We say the children's names repeatedly and ask, how are you doing today? Equally important is the child care provider's interactions with the families or the caregivers, the parents or the caregivers. Such as when they come in the morning, did the child eat, did they sleep well, all those kind of questions to let us know how the children are doing. The moral values do stem from the home, but it's critically important to provide social and emotional learning away from home. Social and emotional learning contributes to teaching children how to take turns, how to wait their turn, how to ask questions, how to be patient. If Bessie takes away social and emotional learning development standards from educational environments, it would be detrimental to the growth and development of our young children. It would be a crisis. A child cannot learn unless they feel loved and cared for. So we urge you to support the revised development standards. Thank you.
Brochard supports the recommendation and wishes to speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Brochard, and I recently retired from Louisiana Department of Education as the Deputy Assistant Superintendent of Early Childhood Operations and as Louisiana's Child Care and Development Fund Administrator. I support the revisions to Louisiana Early Learning and Development Standards published as notice of intent in the October 2022 Louisiana Register, and I urge Bessie to move forward with the implementation of these revised standards. The skills and experiences that children develop during their early years are critically important to their success later in school. These research-based standards are a guide to help child care teachers support young children in the development of life skills, such as how to pay attention in class and remain focused, how to count numbers, how to recognize patterns, how to read a book, how to make friends, how to communicate with people, how to maintain control of their behaviors and emotions so that they can learn. These standards give child care teachers a framework so they can nurture skills and advance a child's learning and development to be successful in school and in life. Again, I urge Bessie to move forward with the implementation of these standards. And thank you for your time.
At this time, I'll read into the record some individuals who do not wish to speak. Janae Clark Jackson supports, but does not wish to speak. Christy Bardell supports, but does not wish to speak. Ella Perkins supports and does not wish to speak. Aaron Lloyd supports and does not wish to speak. Clarence White Jr. supports and does not wish to speak. Charles Robertson supports and does not wish to speak. Kenneth Franklin supports and does not wish to speak. Sheila Taylor supports and does not wish to speak. Janae Butler supports and does not wish to speak. Lindsay Wickmeyer supports and does not wish to speak. And Daniel Fontenot supports and does not wish to speak. These individuals will be verified on the sign-in sheet for everybody's information. Dr. Libby Sonye, Tanisha Ellis, Ms. Paige Lowry, Courtney Rogers. On deck, Michelle Babbitt, Marianne Rivers, Scott Tippett, Katie Alexander. Sonye. In support and wishes to speak.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Libby Sonye, Executive Director of the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children. The Policy Institute is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that is an independent source of data, research, and information for policymakers and stakeholders on issues related to early care and education for young children birth to age 4 in Louisiana and their families. I'm here today to support the revisions of the Louisiana Early Learning and Development Standards published as notice of intent in the October 2022 Louisiana Register, and urge Bessie to move forward with the implementation of the revised standards. I'm also one of the committee members on the Early Learning Development Standards Committee. You've heard that the process by which these standards were revised was lengthy and rigorous, and many people have gone over that already. But I will offer an example of how those standards really support parents and caregivers. I'd like to highlight an infant standard in the proposed social emotional development, relationships with adults domain. Children will move or cry to seek attention and comfort from a familiar adult. While this may seem benign, research shows that strong attachment in the first years and even months of a child's life sets a trajectory for trusting relationships. When caregivers respond to the needs of children, children learn to trust others and that their needs and voice are meaningful. These standards don't impose anything on families. They are designed to help offer guidance so caregivers are aware when a child might be a bit delayed so a family can seek assistance. Louisiana is listed in being in the top 10 for accountability in the country with our early learning development accountability system that we have in place. Having early learning development standards based in child development of how young children learn, change, and grow is critical as it is aligned with the class observation tool. Again, I'm here today to support the revisions of the early learning standards. Thank you.
Ellis, supports and wishes to speak.
Good afternoon, I'm Tanisha Ellis. I'm here representing the Veterans Area Chamber, and we support the revisions to the early learning and development standards published as a notice of intent in the October 22 Louisiana Register, and urge Bessie to move forward and implement the revised standards. Business executives across the country, more specifically the capital region, have noted that too many employees and job applicants lack the life skills necessary. These skills include good communication, the ability to cooperate, and the ability to overcome obstacles. The foundation of an adult's ability to perform these skills are built in early childhood, and business leaders recognize the vital role of early childhood programs in supporting these skills. Business leaders additionally expect adults to have these skills by the time they enter the workforce, and they expect that early childhood education programs will support the development of these skills. Most states have similar standards in their educational programs. Louisiana must maintain our long existing standards to remain competitive and to ensure our students are prepared for a rigorous, high-quality education and a prosperous future. So we ask that you do support these initiatives. Thank you.
Ms. Lowry opposes and wishes to speak.
Hi, I'd like to thank you guys that actually did show up today to hear the public speak on this issue. I'm Paige Lowry. I'm with Louisiana Education Alliance. I'm here to represent as an organization. There's so much I want to cover. A lot has been said today. The first thing that I want to discuss is actually the process. We work
at the meeting in August where the public was denied additional time for the public comment to be made. Bessie at that time voted on the proposed standards to move forward. That put us in the Louisiana Register process portion. We were asked to submit at least 25 letters, so this public hearing could take place today, which we did. We submitted over 50 letters. Then, your department, Bessie, Executive Director, Shan, sent emails to everyone that submitted a letter, and I'd like to read that email to you. This was our correspondence. This was relayed to the public on what this process was going to extend us. Let's see. I'm very angry about this process, to say the least. Aaron LeBlanc, public hearing. So it was Aaron LeBlanc who sent this information, Records Management Administrator is who it was. The Bessie office is in receipt of your public comment regarding Bulletin 136, the Louisiana Standard for Early Childhood Care and Education Programs Serving Children Birth to 5. A public hearing will be held on November 28, 2022 at 2 p.m. in the Claiborne Building, room 1-100, Louisiana Purchase Room, 1201 North 3rd Street, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70802. Thank you. Now, there was no information in regards to written public comment, none. There was no information as to the deadline for the 1 p.m. today, none. So my question is, we talked a lot about the public comment being able to participate in this process, yet we're not getting all the information. I'd also like to point out when the public comment portion was a part of this process, there were less than 10 public comments submitted during that 30-day period. Does that emphasize that the public was aware of that portal? You had more people write letters during the Louisiana Register process to have this public hearing have to happen today, and all these people that showed up. But you have less than 10 people comment during the public comment portion during this process? I don't think it's much to ask to reopen the portal and let the public participate in this process. Bessie has denied us this once already. Why? If we're going to talk about transparency and we're going to say that the public has a place at the table, yet we can't even send them all the proper information to submit written comment for even today's hearing, I'd say that's problematic. Let us have our opportunity to participate in this process. Thank you. I'm also not done. I want to point something out. This is the old standards. You'll see this? All right. This is the new standards. Do y'all see this? Where are the standards? Where are the guidelines to guide these educators on what they should be teaching in the classroom, what the expectation of the state is, that the state is requiring them learn? We clearly expected more out of our birth through 5-year-olds prior to this, according to the old standards. How is this not problematic? The public needs a place to participate in this process. This is what we're looking at. I want to talk about social and emotional development and social and emotional learning. Social and emotional development, we already have processes in place, testing in place to meet those milestones. What we're asking to implement is something very different. If you go right now and get on Google and look up social and emotional development, tell me what pulls up. SEL. No matter which way you slice it, that's what comes up. Now, I can spend another 2 hours breaking down problems with SEL, but obviously we don't have that time here today. I'm speaking on behalf of hundreds of parents that are very concerned about what this state is wanting to implement as a standard. in these standards. The construct of SEL is absolutely there. It's in your own report. It's not in these standards, it's obviously not the buzzwords.
You could wrap up now.
Yes, but the presentation is very clear. We please want to ask that you allow the public more time, more input in this process. We understand that the next portion of this, if it's accepted as it is the legislature. We are not going to back down. If this is voted in, and again, the public comment is being denied again, we will petition our legislature.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
The board members wanted you to know that, the directions was not in the email to the 30-some odd comments that we received, but it was on the agenda. The process was noted on the agenda and blasted out via our listserv, posted to our website, and it was also published in the register as the advertisement, the directions for submitting written comments as it normally is. So no, it wasn't in the individual emails for those that submitted comments, but it was published on the agenda.
What day?
10 days prior to this meeting. You can go and it's viewed now, it's posted now. Okay, next, Ms. Courtney Rogers. You don't have a box checked.
In support.
Support, and which is the speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Courtney Rogers, and I am the director of the Judy Watts Center for Policy and Advocacy at Agenda for Children. Since 1984, Agenda for Children has worked to ensure that Louisiana's children are nurtured and well-taught, beginning at birth and continuing through adolescence. As the state's oldest child advocacy organization, I'm proud to be here once again to express our support in the revisions to the Early Learning Development Standards published as Notice of Intent in the October 2022 Louisiana Register, and I urge Bessie to move forward with implementing these revised standards without further delay. I would also like to take a moment to thank the Early Learning Development Standard Review Committee for their hard work over the past year in producing these revised standards and their dedication to ensuring that our youngest learners are equipped with the skills they need to succeed both inside and outside of the classroom. The research-informed early learning development standards before us today help early care and education professionals support young children in their development of valuable life skills, such as being a good student, making friends, developing empathy, and positively interacting and communicating with their peers as well as adults. These kinds of skills are developmentally appropriate and will help children across Louisiana be successful as they grow older. Especially as we prepare our children for jobs in the 21st century, it is imperative that they have these vital life skills, as they will ultimately help them reach their highest potential and become productive members of our society. Without these skills, we will be doing our children a great disservice. Children who do not learn how to properly communicate, build relationships, cooperate with others, and problem solve tend to suffer negative outcomes at higher rates in adulthood. The research shows that children who lack social and emotional skills are more likely to exhibit disruptive behavior, and in result, they're more likely to perform poorly in school and also become involved in delinquency. If we truly want our children, the children of Louisiana, to be successful, we must provide them with the tools for success. And we have heard here today that the research shows that social and emotional skills are tools for success. There should not be a debate about whether our children should learn these standards if we truly want what's best for our children. The standards before us today will give child care providers a guiding framework to cultivate skills and environments that will advance our children. We should not delay the implementation of these standards. We have carried this cycle on for far too long, and we at Agenda for Children urge Bessie to move forward with the implementation of these standards as they have been published. Thank you.
Ms. Hall? No. The next person. What's your name?
Michelle Madden.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Abbott. Sorry.
elementary schools for St. Charles Parish Public Schools. And I am here today in support of the revised early learning development standards that were in the notice of intent in October. And I urge Bessie to move forward with implementation of these standards. We know that research shows that 80% of a child's brain is developed by age 3, and that by age 4, 90% of that brain is developed. These standards, which are categorized in domains, support that development and are written in such a way that give our child care providers and our educators a guiding framework to provide learning and create meaningful environments so that this learning can occur. And this will aid in the development of the language and social emotional learning. Social emotional learning that is not politicized, but is essential as they continue to progress through our K-12 system. Cooperation, assertion, responsibility, empathy, self-control. Things that are essential to their learning in our system, but we also know are those soft skills that business and industry are looking for upon their high school graduation. These revised standards are fully aligned to the state's goal of having all of our students enter kindergarten ready. So again, thank you for this opportunity, and I fully support and urge Bessie to adopt these standards. Thank you.
So she supports the recommendation and wishes to speak.
Hello, my name is Katie Alexander, and I'm here today to oppose the standards. I'm here to express not only my opposition, but the opposition of many other concerned citizens and parents to the new early childhood development standards. Our opposition is grounded in several concerns. The 2013 standards are detailed and satisfactorily address all of the areas of concern, including the proper approach to the emotional and social development of our youngest learners. The 2013 standards, unlike the currently proposed standards, establish clearly that parents, not the state, are the primary authority over their children and must have full transparency from all teachers and administrators. The newly proposed standards eliminate 75% of the 2013 detailed standards and replace them with general statements that are subject to broad interpretation that allow political ideology to be injected into the curriculum. This is not the purpose of education. I can't help but think that the people in support of these proposed changes don't really understand the pedagogy that can be implemented with proposed standards. I disagree with an earlier comment that this is not a Trojan horse. One only has to look up CASEL, the largest vendor of SEL material, to see the agenda. Lastly, I urge you to open the public comment portal system just as you did regarding the social studies standards. That was a huge success, by the way. And they are nationally recognized for how well they came out with the public standards. I noticed that there are a lot of lobbyists, nonprofits, and educators here pushing with urgency to close the subject and ignore parents' very reasonable request to have additional time for comments. Why? What was wrong with the older, more detailed standards? The majority of the public was not aware of the portal. There are citizens across the state who are only just learning what SEL means and how damaging this is. Please open the portal back up, just as they did for the social studies standards. Parents do not support this. The portal system is the easiest way for them to do so. We will petition the legislature to change if this is pushed through. Thank you.
I have some other individuals who want to get noted in the record. Ms. Hall supports the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Destiny Hamilton supports the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Julie Banks supports the recommendation and does not wish to speak. Christopher Edwards supports the recommendation and does not wish to speak. Bert Collins, Mary Warner, Warner, Jan Moeller, Kimball Wallace. On deck, Susan Nelson, Barbara Freiberg, Jessica Hurst, Tony Leger, on the deck,
So my name is Bert Cowley. I'm from West Baton Rouge Parish. I'm not here really to represent anybody. I'm a grandfather. I'm representing my family, my friends, and my 3 grandchildren, all girls, 1, 2, and 3 years old. So they fit right into this criteria that we're discussing today. And we're not in favor of it. I see the standard, it looks like it's been reduced instead of improved. And we have a lot of concern about that because we see what's going on around the nation. World events, national events. I'm a veteran. My son-in-law's a veteran. My oldest son is a police officer. I could answer a lot of the questions for the admiral. So yeah, I served on a ship, both in the Navy and in the Army. I've been around, and we're very concerned about loosening the standards because you have nefarious educators, and they don't have the guidelines. These people need to be vetted. Look at what's going on. And none of that, I don't think, is in this anyway. And everybody gets vetted these days. We have to really start looking out for one another, especially 0 to 5-year-olds. I was a bus driver when I had my business for 20 years prior to being shipped overseas twice. And I mean, I was charged with looking out for the health and welfare of small ones, as well as all the way up to high school. And I did it to the best of my ability. And a lot of times my hands were tied by rules. You know, I think discipline needs to be looked at a little better when it comes to education. And I think parents need to be more involved. I don't hear anything about parent-teacher association meetings anymore. I guess, you know, Mama socked to them back in Parker Valley or something. But parents are the primary caregivers. We're also the taxpayers. And I don't need, I don't want to see what happened in Loudoun County, Virginia, start going on here, especially with small ones. I think this SEL, CRT stuff is nothing but it reinstitutes segregation and bitterness, and we're trying to overcome all that kind of thing. And it looks like it's being reseated. And the government throwing money at stuff, I don't look at it as funding. I look at it as bribery. I've been involved with the government. I know the difference when they're trying to get you to sway and get something done. It's just not real. And family ought to approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Werner?
Thank you.
Supports the recommendation and wishes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Mary Leach Warner, and I'm the Director and Vice President of the Sweetland Land and Oil Company and North American Land Company from Calcasieu Parish, as well as a member of the Committee of 100 for Economic Development, where I serve on the Early Childhood Business Roundtable. I'm also a proud member of the Louisiana Board of Supervisors for LSU. But most importantly, I'm the mother of 3 children. I support the revisions to the Louisiana Early Learning and Development Standards published as Notice of Intent in the October 22 Louisiana Register. And I'm here today to urge the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education to move forward with implementing the revised standards. The revised Early Learning and Development Standards support children early on to learn the skills necessary to help them in school and later on as they become adults. These skills include paying attention in class, making friends, and interacting and communicating with their peers and with others. The long-established field of early childhood development shows that these kinds of skills help children with their academic performance, relationships, and behavior. As a mother, I think of this as learning to use your words, respecting others. Additionally, these skills will continue to help them once they reach adulthood and enter the workforce, where employers, such as me, are looking to hire candidates who have soft skills, like relationship building, problem solving, collaboration and assertiveness, in addition to the hard skills that make them successful employees. As a mother of 3 children who are now grown adults, I know how well the foundation of social and emotional development builds to all other learning, giving them confidence, giving them respect for the process. And it helps our children be more responsible and successful as they grow. I'm here today to ask you to please maintain the revised standards so that all children in Louisiana are prepared to work collaboratively and with their peers to solve the problems of the future. Thank you so much for your time today.
Ms. Freiberg supports the recommendation, wishes to speak.
Barbara Freiberg, citizen in Baton Rouge here, member of the Early Childhood Commission, also a state representative. And I would like to say that although I may disagree with the state representatives that are here today, I certainly respect them and honor the opinions that they have. I'm here for the same reason I was here in August, to support these standards. I had some remarks, but people have made them for me. Our students' futures depend on their adoption. They're critical for life skills that are a result of year-long transparent process, investment in the future of Louisiana. Teachers support them. Much time for public input, decades of research, best practices from a long-established review, follow research, nurture skills, foundation for adult skills, promote positive interactions between students, and the one I think I like the best is not a Trojan horse for any political ideology. I think these standards were developed by the best of the best of this state, the people who know the most about early childhood education. I thank them for their time and effort that went into this, and I urge your support.
Supports Mr. Is it Mueller?
Mueller, yeah.
Supports the recommendation, wishes to speak.
I'm Jan Mueller. I'm the Executive Director of the Louisiana Budget Project, and I'm also here as a parent. As a policy professional and advocate at the legislature, we've advocated for years for more investments in early childhood education, and I've been thrilled by all the progress that's been made. We've come a long way in this state in the past decade. And as a parent of a boy who's 9, turned 9 yesterday, a girl who is 11, who are both thriving, I attribute a lot of that, to my wife and I, but a lot of it to the great head start they had in an excellent early learning center. And I believe that's the education that they got from Ms. Tressa is a big reason they entered school fully prepared to learn and to make friends, to regulate their emotions. And this morning, I followed this debate in the newspaper. This morning, I actually read through the standards, and I was surprised by what I didn't find. There's no ideological agenda in here. Everything that's in these standards before you represents things that I hope my kids were taught at an age-appropriate time. There's nothing nefarious. It talks about paying attention in class, making friends, interacting with people, how to resolve conflicts, the things that everybody needs to know to do well in school. So I urge you to adopt these standards, to heed the advice of the experts who took a lot of time and energy to develop them, and they are backed by the best research that's out there. So we support this, again, as an organization, but also as a parent.
Sir. Ms. Nicole Wallace supports the recommendation and wishes to speak. And then Ms. Nelson.
Good afternoon. My name is Kimber Wallace, and I'm also a family child care provider, and I'm a member of the Louisiana Policy Institute for Early Child Care, as well as the grandmother of 4 small kids. I support this, the revision to this, and I'm also supporting the I'm also supporting the learning development standards, as well as the social and emotional development that's included. As a child care provider, I get to see firsthand the importance of the revisions and everything, and I get to watch the children grow, and I just get to see so much that this is going to make their the differences are the difference in their lives. And I'm also, as someone who works with young children each day, I see how children will learn to love and trust themselves when it's time for them to interact, just in any situation that they may be in. So that's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Nelson. Yes, and she supports the recommendation.
I support it, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am, and Jessica Hurst and Tony Liddell will be next.
Good afternoon. My name is Susan East Nelson. I'm the Executive Director of the Louisiana Partnership for Children and Families, and I am in support of moving these standards forward. Miss Carroll was my preschool teacher at Cedar Crest Baptist Preschool. My mom, back then in the late 70s, we only had one car in our family, so my mom would load me up into a little car on the back of her bike and run me down the street to Cedar Crest Baptist Preschool, where I learned how to share and be fair and all the life skills that I still use to this day. And I was a weird kid, actually, I was still a weird kid. But I was creative and imaginative, and I would get really frustrated when my imagination didn't match the world that was looking in front of me. And Miss Carroll took me by the hand one day and she said, stop, take a deep breath, and start again. And that life skill is actually helping me at this very moment when people come to this table and talk about critical race theory or Marxism or all kinds of nefarious things that are not anywhere in our standards at all. They can't even actually point to a specific thing in these standards that they are opposed to. And I'm using my social emotional skills I learned 40 plus years ago. This is not new. Social emotional learning has been used, and it was used at Cedar Crest Baptist Preschool over 40 years ago. So I think it's important that we don't buy the propaganda, that we don't buy the messaging that's out there when people say, oh, I searched for social emotional learning on the internet and I got all this information. I looked at that today. I actually did the search. And I noticed how many were advertised links to things like the Family Research Council and Epoch Times, which are very much propaganda, that they are making people afraid of these standards. We have these incredible experts who put these standards together with a lot of care and a lot of consideration. And this process for these standards has been no different than every other process that Bessie has used to make standards happen in our state. So respectfully, I would ask that we not be intellectually dishonest and we moved these standards forward so that our children have the benefit that I had over 40 years ago. Thank you.
Mr. Liddell supports the recommendation. Would you speak?
Hi. Excuse me.
I'm sorry, Miss.
That's okay. Tony, Dr. Tony Day. Good afternoon.
Day.
It's okay, no problem. Over the course of my 40-year career in early childhood, I've been privileged to work across all sectors of early childhood. I began as a young person, as a child care provider, putting myself through school and getting my degree in early childhood and elementary education. I was thrilled to be able to get the first preschool teacher in Louisiana in 1985. There were 2 programs in the public school systems, and I was a teacher in preschool at that time. I continued my love of early childhood and continued my education. I had received my master's degree in early childhood and my doctorate in early childhood special education. This education I was able to move out of the classroom and support other teachers and other child care providers as a training and technical assistance provider, a university assistant professor, and I've directed an early childhood Head Start training technical assistance program across 5 states, including Louisiana. I say to you, this experience and this education is important because this is not just me that had this education and that experience as one of many people on the the Standards Committee, the work group. The work group consisted of all experienced and educated people that were passionate about what they were doing. We worked extremely hard. The Department of Education staff should be commended and supported by their administration, as the work they did was unbelievable. I have been in the field for 40 years and participated on many of these work groups, and really never have I seen one that was so well organized, transparent, took public comment, looked at every single person's perspective, and put it into what was consensus of the work groups. I was on the subgroup for the social and emotional development work group, and let me say that standards were not deleted. There were standards that were clarified, that were arranged to be more in line with the current research and the current practices that are quality evidence-based practices. We did not just take these off the top of our head. There was work that went into it, that we looked at other states, many other states, of what their standards were, how they came up with these standards. The Head Start programs have performance standards that clearly lay out social and emotional development standards, some of the best. We did our due diligence to do what was right for the children and families in Louisiana related to supporting social and emotional development. We worked really collaboratively with families to get their input, and as the gentleman was here saying he was a grandparent, I'm a grandparent, I'm a mother, so I definitely have that perspective as well. The 40 years, I do that. I am in support of this, and the many organizations, the Children and Families, Administration for Children and Families has a document supporting a Dear Colleague document that I would suggest everyone access and read, with the recommendations for all states and administrators to follow related to social and emotional development. Thank you.
Megan Garrettson?
Good afternoon, Superintendent Brumley and members of Bessie. My name is Scott Tippett, and I'm the Louisiana State Manager for Save the Children Action Network. We were created in 2014 as the political advocacy arm of Save the Children, be the political voice for kids. We and our approximately 6,700 Louisiana supporters work to ensure that issues critical to children's lives and futures are given top priority by elected leaders, building bipartisan support to make sure every child has a strong start in life. We support the revisions of the Early Learning and Development Standards published as a notice of intent in the October 2022 Louisiana Register, and urge Bessie to move forward with implementing the revised standards. These research-based standards help early care and education professionals support young children in the development of valuable life skills, like paying attention to class, being a good student, making friends, and interacting and communicating with people. These kinds of skills help children to be more responsible and successful as they grow. The standards give child care providers guiding frameworks so that they can cultivate skills and environments that advance students' learning and development to prepare our youngest learners for success in school and life. The social and emotional development component has been raised repeatedly throughout this process, and what's clear to me is the 25-member review committee, the 29 members of the Early Childhood Care and Education Advisory Council, and the Superintendent's Advisory Council, all of which have public meetings and have opportunities for input from parents, have in regular order all voted unanimously to support the standards. That's because hundreds of studies conducted over the past few decades offer consistent evidence that social and emotional development is beneficial for children and for society. I appreciate your careful consideration. Please move forward with implementing the revised standards for our littlest learners.
Mr. Tippett was in support of who should speak. Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Megan Garrettson. I'm the owner and director of Young Scholars Academy and also a mother as well. I serve on governing boards and committees to advocate for early childhood education. I am here to support the revisions to the early learning and development standards published as notice intent to the October 2022 Louisiana Register, and also urge Betsy to move forward with implementing these revised standards. These standards are important to us as childcare providers. These standards were used in developing the class tool. This class tool is crucial for guiding our teachers and helping providers support them and understanding these standards. The class tool is on a scale of 1 to 7. The tool indicates that an excellent teacher would score between a 6 and a 7. I'd like to read 3 short examples from this class tool to show how this guides our classrooms in a positive way and how our teachers are viewed to interact with our children. The teacher consistently is attentive to the children, notices their cues, and is aware when children have difficulties and are in need. The teacher consistently responds to the children's needs and bids for attention and provides comfort and assurances to the children, always. The children appear comfortable seeking support for the teachers, interacting with the teachers, and participating in activities. Their problems and concerns are consistently resolved. These are just a few examples of this class tool that was used when these standards were developed, which I use every day, and our center is a 5-star quality center, and without these tools, we wouldn't be where we are today. So I'm here to support these tools and to let you know that they work.
Ms. Gibbons? Okay.
She supports the recommendation and wishes to speak.
I support.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Christy Gibbons, the founder of the Executive Director of Kids of Excellence. I have 3 NACE accredited child care centers in New Orleans. I am also co-founder and managing partner of Elite Teacher Institute. I'm a CDA Early Childhood Accelerator Program and co-founder and executive director of For Providers by Providers, dedicated community for early childhood education leaders. Today, I speak to you in support of keeping social emotional development in our schools. I'm also here supporting over 23 years in early childhood. I have over 5,000 parents that support me in this action. We have over 500 parents on our waiting list that believe in what we do at our center, and in our mission, our vision, and everything that we do is wrapped around social emotional. And this is what our parents in school that we affiliate with believes in. Social emotional learning is pivotal in the work of early childhood professionals. It prepares students for lifelong success. Through social emotional development, students learn critical life skills, teaching them self-awareness, self-control, and impersonal skills. These skills help them learn and understand themselves and build positive self-images in relationship with caregivers and peers. This not only impacts students now, but it helps build student development tools to solve problems, tackle adversity and responsibility, manage challenging behavior, gain perspective of emphasizing during difficult moments, take social emotional development out of early childhood would be detrimental to our students' futures and have lasting implications. We live in a world full of adversity and diversity. No 2 people are the same or think the same. Social emotional development builds on positive outcomes of this and teaches students how to address disagreements. Students begin building these skills as little as infants. They grow and mature, so do the skills. We all want to see a better, safe, and accountable Louisiana. Social emotional learning is the support. School support this as well. Thank you.
Scott? Go ahead.
I'm Jessica Hurst. I'm speaking as the mother of an autistic child. I support the revisions to the early learning and developmental standards published as notice of intent in the October 2022 Louisiana Review, and urge the board to move forward with implementing the revised standards. As a parent, I am looking not only for my child to learn academic skills in their early years, but also those skills that will allow them to succeed in their relationship with others. Our children have one chance in childhood. We want our children to be responsible, make good decisions, and take responsibility for their actions. Children must be taught these skills, and they must reinforce both at home and in school. These standards will help educators provide high-quality instruction to children in Louisiana, which some studies show can reduce a child's likelihood of future involvement in the criminal justice system. It is important to me to make sure my child, as well as all children in Louisiana, are prepared to work collaboratively with their peers to solve problems of the future. The revised early learning and developmental standards support children early on to learn the skills necessary to help them in school and later on in adulthood. Being a parent of a child with autism, these standards reside heavily with me, as these are not just life skills, they are necessary skills in my child's development, as well as the children who will be a part of the community around them. Too many children like my son, who have exceptional needs, fall through the cracks in Louisiana. Did you know 85% of autistic children, of autistic adults, are unemployed? Staggering data as a huge reason why I'm in favor of these standards. Identifying and teaching social emotional learning intentionally can help this become a thing of the past. As a parent, I am proud to support and stand in support of these standards. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lynette Rivers, Director of Kids Kingdom Academy and Daycare located in New Orleans. It is very important to me that these early learning standards for social-emotional are kept in place. Social-emotional learning is a critical component of a child's development into adulthood. If taken away, it will only become more challenging and exhausting for our teachers to work with children who have challenging behaviors. Our teachers daily model a variety of strategies to help children manage their emotions, such as reading techniques, songs, books that show pictures that help students understand and recognize their feelings. Teachers also do this by using appropriate praise language and modeling positive teacher-child interactions. Studies have shown that later in life, those children who are not taught social-emotional skills will struggle cultivating positive self-image, won't accept responsibility for their actions, will have difficulty understanding their own emotions as well as others, and having difficulty forming relationships. Moreover, they won't know appropriate ways as adults to handle certain situations and how to effectively seek out help when necessary. It's imperative that we must keep social-emotional skills in place for all early learners so that we as educators can continue helping our little ones become healthy, resilient individuals who will, as adults, know how to adapt to new situations and manage their emotions in a positive way. Thank you.
So we'll read into the record, Miranda Scott does not wish to speak but supports the recommendation. And Rita Wilfred supports the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Ms. Joseph, Ms. Road or Rouge, Ms. Wilcox, Jamar Day, Dex, Celeste Carter, Angela Keys, Jillian Delos, read the last name, and Hamilton Jones, Hamilton Simon Jones. Ms. Joseph supports and wishes to speak.
Good afternoon. I initially had something in writing, but in the 3 hours it took me to get from New Orleans to here, I decided to speak directly from my heart. The fact that I stayed in traffic for 3 hours to come and speak on this tells you how important this is to me. I own 3 centers that are licensed for almost 500 kids. We only serve about 350 because we're concerned about the quality and care that we give them. So we keep our ratios low and our class sizes small. I'm on a former military base with one of my centers, which still has a secured Marine and Coast Guard facility there. We serve a lot of military families who support what we do. These families deal with parents who are deployed, who are missing a mom or a dad, who are not, maybe not here, but could be in another state or in another country somewhere around the world. Providing social and emotional support to those families and those kids is vital to what we do. And that's why I'm asking you to support this. Our children need to know that they're loved, they're cared for, and how to get along with each other. I have children of all races and ethnicities, and in no way do we ever discuss, distinguish, separate, or divide children based on that. These children learn to love each other for each other. They support each other, they become best friends. I have parents who have moved, they still contact us, they still stay in touch with the kids are here, they come to town and visit us because we've developed those connections. And that's because we focus on the social and emotional development of those kids. This has nothing to do with anything other than teaching children how to care about one another, their fellow man, how to get along, how to share, and how to just be an overall good citizen. And that's what we do, and that's why we're asking you to support this. Thank you.
Supports the recommendation and wishes to speak.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Monique Gurwitch. I am a provider of Calling Care Kids Academy in Jefferson Parish, and also a co-owner of World Class Learning Academy in New Orleans East area. I'm here in support. I'm here as a parent, as a provider, and an advocate for early learning. So I've been here and I was in traffic as well because this is very important and it is something that needs to be said. The first thing that I have to say is just sitting here listening to everyone's concerns and what they have to say, they spoke very eloquently about why we should keep it, why we should keep the standards, why social emotional is so important. Well, it's important because it builds character. It's important because it builds confidence. And it's important because it also helps with conflict resolution. In today's society, this is fact, it's not fiction. In today's society, we need social emotion. It is proven that we need it just based on the crime rate. Just this weekend alone, there was crime in the Louisiana mall. There was crime in New Orleans. There was a 15-year-old that killed an 18-year-old, and 5 were injured. This is the norm. So just the fact that social emotional is even up for grabs, as if it's not important, is appalling by itself. Because it's proven that when children don't have it, and it starts at an early age, this is the result. It's going to be increased incarceration, increased murders, and things that we think don't affect us. Sooner or later, it does. So what affects another family will come down to affecting you personally. So I'm urging Bessie to please just look at the facts. We've heard from the experts and we see the reality. And I'm in great support of keeping social emotional. Thank you.
Ms. Wilcox, and she supports the recommendation and wishes to speak.
Hello, my name is Rochelle Wilcox, and I am the CEO of Wilcox Academy of Early Learning. We have 3 early learning centers in the greater New Orleans area. I have been in ECE for over 22 years. I'm also the co-founder of For Providers by Providers, which is a provider-led nonprofit that empowers Louisiana's early learning center's voice, enhancing quality of ECE through policy advocacy, professional development, and networking. I am also the inaugural Early Childhood Education Leader of the Year for the state of Louisiana. I support the revisions to the early learning and development standards published as notice of intention in October 22nd Louisiana registry, and urge Bessie to move forward in implementing these revised standards. Louisiana has been a pioneer as one of the first states in the country to put early childhood education standards in place back in 2013 to give children the life skills they need to be more responsible and successful as they grow. 90% of children's brain development by the time, 90% of the child's brain develops by the time that they are 5 years old. It is the experiences and relationships that infants and young children have that continuously develop their brains, that build the neural circuits, that will be the foundation for later development. With that said, the standards in Louisiana are meant to help children ages 5 and under learn valuable skills, like how to pay attention in class, how to be a good student, how to make friends, problem solving, impulse control, how to interact and communicate with people. These are things that we need right now in this current space that we're in. We know that children who receive this kind of learning early in life do better in school. As an early care and education provider, I appreciate the clear standards that support me and my teachers in understanding what I can expect from children at different ages. The revised early learning development standards support us being effective and thoughtful in our practices. I am a proud supporter of the revisions in standards. In addition, Louisiana early learning development standards are almost 10 years old and have helped our early care and education system thrive. We have been national leaders in early learning because we know it can help our children do better in school and ultimately be more successful in life. To be clear, the revised standards are a result of a year-long review process, including multiple points and public meetings for public review and feedback. This includes review and recommendations by committees of early care and education practitioners, research, and parents. The Early Childhood Education Advisory Council has also reviewed and approved this revised standards before they were presented to Bessie. Furthermore, the revised standards are rooted in full body of evidence that proves social emotional development leads to healthy development and self-identity, self-esteem, and cognition. I'm also a parent of 3 sons that I know benefited from early learning, social emotional skills.
Marday. Celeste Carter. Ms. Carter supports the recommendation and wishes to speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Celeste Carter, and I'm the parent of 2 young children whose lives these standards will affect. I am here in support of the revisions to the Early Learning and Development Standards published as Notice of Intention, the October 2002 Louisiana Register, and I urge Betsy to move forward with implementing the revised standard. Children's emotional well-being during their early years has a powerful impact on their social relationships throughout life. Research shows that children who are emotionally healthy are better able to establish and maintain positive relationships with others. The relationships they form in their early years help shape who they are, who they become, and their understanding of the world. I guess I just don't get what's so wrong with children learning to take turns, become independent, learn to follow rules, learn how to control their emotions so we don't have the rise of crime, and how to develop a positive self-image. These research-based standards will give child care providers a guiding framework so that they can cultivate skills and environments that advance students' learning and development to prepare our youngest learners for success in school and life. Let's give Louisiana's children the future they deserve. Let's move these standards forward without delay. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Hamilton Simons Jones, and I'm here today because I support the revisions to the Early Learning and Development Standards and encourage Bessie to move forward with implementing the revised standards in accordance with your prior vote on this issue. I live in New Orleans, and I'm the parent of 2 young girls, ages 7 and 9, who attended early learning programs that participate in Louisiana's state licensing system. Because Louisiana had strong, had strong early learning standards in place, my children learned early on to manage their emotions, to share and cooperate with others, and to identify and solve problems. In fact, my 9-year-old daughter, Sayla, wanted to join us today. We talked on Saturday about her feelings. She was visiting her grandmother, whom she hasn't seen in months, and would have had to leave early to join me today. She was torn between spending more time with her grandmother and being here today. And quite frankly, she was worried. She was worried about letting me as her father down. She was worried about letting many of the adults whom she respects, who are here today, down. But most importantly, she was worried about letting down a generation of younger children who would follow her if these standards went backwards. Her ability to sort through her feelings, communicate about them with adults, and make decisions is because she was taught these things at an early age at Rainbow Learning Academy, one of Louisiana's early learning programs that's guided by the Early Learning and Development Standards. In fact, she sent me an example of one of the feelings thermometers she learned to use to name her feelings. Well, I can't describe it as well as her. Hopefully you can read it. You can see it goes from not being sad at all at the bottom to being really sad and crying her eyes out at the top. She was taught to use this to be able to start to name and recognize her feelings. She asked me, should I do one for sad, or should I do one for mad, or should I do one for another? Because she could do any of them, right? She learned that in her early learning program because we have early learning development standards that teach children how to recognize their feelings, how to name them, and how to communicate about them. Her ability to name her feelings has served her well. She's now in 4th grade. She's a straight A student. Her teachers describe her as a leader amongst her peers. In fact, learning how to express herself, interact with others, manage conflict, and solve problems may be the most important thing she learned before kindergarten. I want that for all Louisiana children. I'm also a business owner who operates a successful consulting firm that works with hundreds of people and dozens of organizations across Louisiana each year to solve problems facing organizations and communities. The success of my business depends on my team members' ability to work effectively with others and solve problems. We need a generation of children who are equipped early on with these skills. The proposed early learning and development standards do exactly that. I strongly encourage you to move forward with implementing these revised standards, as does my daughter, Sayla. Thank you.
Way to go on these. Angela Keys. Ms. Jillian. And then we have 3 more comments. Caitlin Joshua. Ansel Bradford II. And Lynette Rivers. Ms. Keys supports the recommendation and wishes to speak.
Good afternoon. I support the revisions to the Early Learning and Development Standards published as notice of intent in the October 2022 Louisiana Register and urge Bessie to move forward with implementing the revised standards. My name is Dr. Angela Keys. I have a doctorate in applied developmental psychology and completed a postdoctoral fellowship in infant mental health at Tulane University. I've worked for the past 20 years in infant and early childhood mental health and infant and early childhood mental health consultation, and I'm an associate professor of psychiatry at Tulane. The early learning development standards were developed about 10 years ago and have served as an important guide to supporting all aspects of children's development, including social emotional development. These were once considered soft skills, as we've heard people say today. However, decades of research has taught us that these skills, the ability to regulate big feelings, to tolerate frustration, to focus and persist on a task, to make relationships with others, are the bedrock on which all other learning takes place. So essentially, social emotional learning makes all other learning possible because the areas of the brain that regulate learning and memory and acquisition of knowledge are also the areas of the brain that regulate emotions, and they cannot operate at the same time. So when the child is activated and having a big feeling, they can't focus and process, much like we can't think straight when we are upset about something, when we are in crisis and we have trouble
thinking straight, so do children. So when the emotions are activated, learning is more difficult. And these skills, children do not acquire on their own. They must be taught, just like anything else. Our numerical concepts, our literacy concepts, they need to be taught. And the early learning development standards provide teachers with the tools and the guidelines that they need to support the development of social emotional skills so that they can then foster those cognitive skills, promote academic growth, and provide an environment where children feel safe and nurtured and are ready for school. When we create these environments, children view learning and school itself in a more positive light. They're better able to manage their big feelings, more motivated to learn, work harder on tasks, are less likely to give up when they don't know the answer. They do better in school overall, and they continue on a path that increases the likelihood of successful outcomes later in life. Isn't that what we want for our children? We can give those things to them by implementing these revised standards, and I urge Bessie to do that. Thank you.
Ms. Gillian supports the recommendation and wishes to speak as the first name.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment today. My name is Julie Dennis Reyes, and I'm the Director of Education Youth Initiatives, including the New Orleans Campaign for Grade 4 Reading for United Way of Southeast Louisiana. I strongly support the revisions to the early learning and development standards and urge Bessie to move forward with implementing the revised standards. A large, rigorous body of research demonstrates how social and emotional development improves academic performance, relationships, and behavior. The improved updates to the standards are in line with existing standards and reflect the best practices from a long-established scientific field. The standards give child care providers a guiding framework so that they can cultivate skills and environments that advance students' learning and development to prepare our youngest learners for success in school and life. The National Campaign for Grade Level Reading, a body of over 400 communities across the U.S. and Canada, states that quality early education is a primary driver of grade level reading success. Decades of verifiable national data tells us that a child that is able to read on grade level is most likely to graduate from high school, go on to higher learning opportunities, earn higher wages as adults, and become invested members of their communities. The presented revisions to the standards support quality early learning and experience. Our children deserve the best start in life, and it is our responsibility to support the development of the whole child, which includes access to dynamic social emotional learning environments. Thank you.
I also want to note that Mr. Garvey is present for the record. Ms. Joshua? And then Mr. Bradford? So this will be our last comment unless someone has not filled out a card and wishes to speak.
All right, thank you. My name is Caitlin Joshua, and I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I serve as the lead organizer for the Power Coalition for Equity and Justice, where I've had an opportunity to travel across the state and speak with parents of early childhood students alongside the Go Far Coalition. One thing that stood out to me throughout our listening session tour was the demand from parents and advocates of the state of Louisiana invest in the education of our smallest learners from the moment they get here to the time they reach college age. The revised early learning development standards will aid in meeting that demand and bring us one step closer to addressing the inequities within our ECE system. As a mother of a 4-year-old little girl, I see firsthand how truly important it is to invest in early childhood education years for our little ones. I do implore the board to vote yes on the revised learning standards and appreciate the opportunity to speak today. Thank you very much.
Members, this concludes our hearing, and the meeting is now 3:58. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to everyone for coming to comment, and this report will be presented to the board at its December meeting, as I said earlier, which will be an additional opportunity for folks to come and provide testimony, and the board at that time will make the decision on whether or not to move forward with the notice of intent as published in the October register. Thank you.